300 years ago, tens of millions of buffalo roam North America. The 50,000 wild buffalo currently being protected are the last remnants of a culture, people, and species that once dominated the regions from Alaska to northern Mexico. While there are many commercial efforts to bring the buffalo back into vogue, bison burgers, steaks, and chilies, many of North America's current residents consume the alternative, beef. This week, I'm rediscovering what makes America, memorializing what we have lost after centuries of modernization, and giving back my respects to the things that sacrifice for life's continuation. Alaska, also known to many as the last frontier, is home to 4 of these wild buffalo herds: the Delta Junction, Farewell, the Chitna River, and the Copper River. I have found Lady Luck, and this is where she lives. Years can lead to this moment, for many hunters can apply their whole life without an opportunity to seek the land's largest animal, buffalo. But today, I have been given a very rare chance to not only hunt a bison, but to also give back to a hunter in need. The folks hosting me are using a proxy authorization type system that allows another hunter to hunt and fish on the behalf of an individual with an underlying condition. To save you from the entire list of conditions that can lead to such a situation, the one we find ourselves in today is just being plain old. A doctor wrote me one day and told me a hunting story that captured my imagination, a timeless struggle-filled journey that led him to live a life of seclusion, alone, away from the stopwatches, radio shows, and the most toxic of them all, city lights. So here I am for the second time this year to find a buffalo for both my host and myself, an experience for a harvest, both filling the cup of the other. And that was the most enticing journey of all. I flew in on what I deem my red angel, as both times I have made the way up, I always find myself wrapped tightly and holding on for dear life at every bit of turbulence, all while the well-experienced bush pilot snickers away. I hear behind my back and to my face, they call me Queasy One, which has been haunting me my whole life if I'm being honest. No matter the hundreds of flights I've been on, without fail, I'll find myself taking a second or 10 to find my legs again. So today, I think I'll rest in the lodge that has been set up and warm, relax a bit and enjoy the sleepless night in a soft warm bed before making my way in the morning. I took a look at the map on the way in to find the boundaries for the hunt. For this take, the old man wants to stay clear of the main herds near the rivers. I was told about a particular herd that may wander up to the mountains and disappear for a bit. This herd, and only this herd, am I allowed to take from. Now, if the challenge wasn't enough, I'm tasked with hauling the entire creature back to the lodge, where the caretakers will dress and pack the meat for not only the old-timers, but they host a bunch of hunters throughout the year. And this meat will also serve for what the doctor's wife would call taste before the take. The buffalo here are fairly used to humans as the caretakers are constantly making noise and rounds to this side and to that. Having heard of how they can stand in the middle of the road for hours protesting traffic noise, would-be passerbys halted till the 1,000-pound beast moves, permitting traffic to continue. I spotted several groups on the way up the mountain, one of which I could tell was about to lay siege to a bridge that I desperately needed to cross. Finding an opening, and with a bit of bravery, I hurtled the truck over the bridge, only for my efforts to be thwarted once again by yet another group. But this time, it felt like it was I who was doing the harassing, as the boundary this hunter was allowed to harvest from had been crossed a mile back. The jeep I drove in on is accessible to me until I get up to Grayland Peaks, where I'll be hunting. Tonight, at some point, they'll have to come grab it and ask me to leave the keys behind the gas cap. Seemed like a very Alaskan thing to do. When I first heard that they would just let me drive their rig, but after visiting and talking to the people here, you get a sense of reason. You stand on your word, or you get punched in the mouth. And as it sits, I told them that their vehicle was safe with me, so I parked it at the trailhead with care and set out to make camp. I finished the night with a quick hike up to where the beauty of the land was taken into my retina, sent to my brain where the dopamine was triggered, leaving me in awe of what we can find just over the hill. Night creeps in fast, and the shadows grow as if they were a teenage boy in the throes of puberty. I took a sit on the ridge and another back at camp to really take in the sights. By morning, I had a plan for the day, and it went a little something like this. Hike down the mountain, check a hunting stand to the northwest, see critters along the way, and all was going to plan when the first light came up. A small pack of wolves was spotted just 150 meters back, crossing my tracks. Lucky for me, they didn't have any interest. The thought did creep into my head that I may not have seen the last of them, especially with a fresh kill on the ground. Trying not to give it too much thought, the caribou on the way up seemed way less worried than I was. At that point, the feeling let loose its grip, knowing there was a buffer between the wolves and myself. By the time I hit the stand, all manner of native populace was checking the same lake. The closer I got to the stand, the more I was ready to sit for a second and breathe. But then loud hoofs beating the ground is all I heard before a giant bull moose charging over the hill came directly at me. I dodged to the right and then to the left, trying to put whatever space my muscles could acquire between us. Escaping the first charge, I knew I was only part of the way through, and I was sure this bull wasn't happy to see me. He looked over his shoulder and gave me a short, breathy snort, ran over the hill to a lake not so infested with hairless primates. Climbing into the stand, I felt a bit more protected from the unknown. The morning was beautiful enough to bring any lower 50 resident to sell the farm. Mountains began to imitate the sun. The bird's song had finally reached Dakota. Elk, bear, wolves, caribou all inhabited the area, but no sign of the buffalo I had seen the day before. With one line on the skyline and the other on the valley, I scoured the area until there they were. Looking like a western scene from the films and images one's imagination could conjure, thinking of such creatures, the herd crested the mountainside and began to make its way to the small lake I overlooked. I could reminisce on the feeling of awe that gave me calmness to a point where I had to gather myself up and return to the task I was given: find the old bull. He hid among the horns and the hair with less years, but the gray oxidized fur this bull was touting gave him away all too easily. Displaying years of life and struggle, hard winters and lean summers, the buffalo had survived it all. It was time to double check my ranges, triple check my breath, and check my rifle for the 100th time now. I decided to squat down into a kneeling position, balancing my arm on the ledge in front of me. Now is when the shot process starts to kick in, turning my breath into a rhythmic type beat, driving all thought out of my head but the process. I breathe out one last time, feeling the bottom of my lungs, the dead space where I can find a split second to make a clean shot. The shot looked good. The powerful round smashed into the bull's broadside. He flinched, took a few steps, and lowered his head. The entire herd came to life, bolting for the ridge they had come from. He thrashed a bit and shook his head, and what I took was an attempt to shake it off. He turned around to make his way to the rest of the herd when the powerful beast finally collapsed. Shoulders buckling, he hit the ground hard enough the sound carried to my eardrums 100 yards away. Now would be the hardest part of the whole hunt. The waiting. Wondering if he expired fast. Imagining what the trophy would look like. And making sure none of those predators around decided they'd rather have the downed buffalo for me. The old bull lay dead not 20 yards from me. When it set in, I had taken a buffalo, fighting with a thought that my role in conservation was under threat by such an opportunity. I remembered and reminded myself the old bull had done what nature asked, carried the DNA further into the timeline, supporting the generations that will come after him, his species, and mine. When I walked up on him, he had been laying next to some flowers, as if he had laid there to smell them one last time. remembering my readings of other hunters' traditions. I pulled grass and the flowers into my hand to make a wiry ball. The water in my pack was dripped over the combination, and I placed the mess into the bull's mouth, hoping it will serve as his final meal. The pack out was long without the jeep to get me around, but I made it back to the lodge within a few hours and had the first load of fresh buffalo steaks. Lucky for me, the caretakers were around, and their sons looked to be the perfect build for carrying buffalo. They put the young men to the task, and we hiked back to gather the rest of the meat that we would need to wrestle. The steaks that night were the best I ever had. Whether it be the nauseating plane ride I finally had gotten over, the feeling of being successful when doubt had been creeping around my thoughts, the time and storytelling while sharing a meal with others in community, or the remembrance of a species that was once greater to North America than we are today. I leave Alaska thankful.